Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us for the e-commerce coffee break webinar series. Today's webinar, which is the second in a series of 3 webinars on key trends for 2014, is on converting more traffic or visitors that hit your site. My name is Dave Gita, and I'm the Director of Marketing and Product Management at Tenzing, an e-commerce specialist and managed hosting provider. Joining me on today's webinar is Jamie Schrader, who's the Vice President of Strategy for Demac Media, a Magento consulting practice that helps retailers develop their web stores on the Magento platform. And Jamie and I will be covering a number of key topics today on the subject of converting more folks who are hitting your web stores. Jamie's going to kick off our discussion today talking about responsive design and how responsive design techniques can help with conversion. I'll be following up with a discussion on video and how video and rich content can also help increase conversions. And then we'll be opening up the back end of our webinar today to any questions and answers that you may have. And as an operational point, you'll notice there's a chat window in WebEx. At any point during the webinar, feel free to chat us a question, and we'll reserve those for the end of the webinar and answer as many as we can get through. Thank you very much, and without further ado, I'd like to hand things over to Jamie. It's all yours, Jamie.
Great, thanks, Dave. Hi, everyone. Thanks again for joining us today. So as Dave mentioned, I'm going to sort of kick us off by talking a little bit about responsive design. So for those of us who don't know, by definition, what is responsive design? By definition, a responsive design website provides an optimal viewing experience across a wide range of devices. So a responsive website would adapt its layout to the viewing environment by using fluid proportion-based grids, flexible images, and CSS media queries. What does that mean? In short, a responsive site is just a user-friendly way that no matter who's looking at your site, on no matter what device, and no matter what resolution, they're going to experience a very strong user-friendly experience. Now, when we talk about responsive design, immediately the first thing that comes to most people's heads is the mobile environment. And as you can see here, responsive has a way of looking very nicely and looking very differently on different devices like tablets, desktop computers, and mobile phones. Now, talking about the need for responsive design and a mobile-friendly design and why is that necessary, as you can see by the statistic that we're looking at here on your screen, over the course of the last year and even well into this year, mobile traffic and activity on your site is constantly increasing, and it's becoming more and more evident as a substantial source of traffic to your site. So over the last couple of years, I'm sure everybody out there has been hearing a lot about mobile usage and mobile traffic, and you've seen that there's a crazy amount of growth and excitement going on. So let's actually look back at sort of year over year and see how the growth is sort of achieving. So what actually some of these statistics that you're seeing here is showing how mobile usage has actually soared. Just looking at, let's say, Cyber Monday of last year, 32% of all traffic was actually coming from a mobile device or a mobile environment. So, and what that actually showed us is a 45% growth in mobile traffic from year over year. And because when we think about websites and e-commerce, the first thing we always think about is sales. What percentage of our sales actually came from mobile? And what we can see here is that 17%, which is a substantial amount of online sales, actually came from mobile usage, which was a 55% jump over last year. Now, one last thing to mention here, which is very important to recognize, is the difference between mobile from a handheld mobile device and a tablet environment. At the very beginning of the mobile discussion in our world, we started hearing all about mobile, and both tablets and mobile were looked at the exact same. But what we're seeing now more and more is that tablet is actually showing us a very different set of statistics. So what you can see from what we saw last year is that while 20% of site traffic came from mobile devices, only 5% of our sales came from those same devices. However, while 12% of traffic came from tablets, also 12% of sales came from the same tablets as well. So it goes to show you that while traffic and activity in your site may come more from a mobile environment, if your overall objective is site conversion and sales, tablets are a very strong tool for you. You'll see a little bit more success out of that. Now, moving along, some other statistics that might be very interesting to know about is that because we're all working with smartphones in our pockets these days, mobile's dominance is really tiptoed into the world of email. And the one really big important thing to recognize from this particular slide is that a majority of people last year actually opened up emails on their phone rather than in their desktop computer. So when you're building an email marketing strategy, recognizing the importance of mobile is incredibly important. So what are some of the other benefits of having a responsive design? Obviously, mobile is the big goal, and there's sales and there's traffic, but what are some of the other benefits of using a responsive design to accommodate the needs of mobile these days? The first one, and one that sort of doesn't get talked about too often, is actually there's a very strong search engine optimization benefit of going the route of responsive versus going in an alternate route, which we'll get a little later. Actually, Google has declared it as the best SEO solution for covering cross-device activity and usability on your site. The other thing, of course, is to plan for the future and prepare for customer behavior. People are starting to browse more, shop more, and do more on their mobile devices. And allowing yourself to have a responsive environment also allows you to accommodate these behaviors, keeping in mind that these devices are also showing up now in different sizes, different scales, so you're able to really accommodate all that different kind of activity. Now, while trying to accommodate that activity, what's also important is that you don't have yourself 14 different websites or templates to manage. So streamlining content into one environment that will respond nicely to different resolutions is a huge benefit for you. And one thing to recognize, and this is why we bring it up as a very important e-commerce trend for 2014, is that responsive and mobile technology is no longer a nice to have when we're talking to new projects. This is becoming best practice. This is becoming e-commerce 101. So it's very important to recognize that this should be looked at as part of your overall strategy. Now, every time we talk about responsive, we also talk about mobile, and it's very common that these two get sort of intertwined. But one point that we want to make sure you get across is that the strength of responsive and the importance of it being part of your strategy isn't only because it's a strong tool for mobile. Responsive does not necessarily mean mobile. Responsive design is all about screen resolution and making sure that your site and your user experience is strong across different resolutions. And some of the statistics that you're going to see here on this slide show you that people are actually looking at your site on so many different resolutions these days that even if you just had desktop traffic, you still have to accommodate 5, 6, even 7 different resolutions at the same time. So the key thing to remember is that responsive has both a mobile strategy as well as an overall business strategy. Now what this slide is actually showing you very simply is that there's extremes. There's your desktop environment and there's your mobile environment, but the key thing to recognize is, and like I've been mentioning, there's your numerous different types of desktop. You have 14 different kinds of cell phones to choose from these days, and don't even get me started on tablets. It's absolutely nuts. So the key thing to recognize is that you're going to have this resolution frenzy on your hands, and you want to make sure that no matter how someone visits your site, you're good to go and you're good to support them. So what are some things to remember when we're talking about setting your site up in a responsive environment? First is that your site content must be optimized. And the reason we bring this up is because we recognize a lot of you may be looking into this practice already. So when you're building a site in a responsive environment, you're no longer worrying about one scenario. You're thinking about desktop and mobile and tablet and 27-inch screens and small 800 by 600 screens. So you want to make sure that your content is optimized to handle all of those scenarios. That includes your images, your marketing content, all the different types of stuff that you're going to be using on your site, but also you recognize that these experiences will also be very different. So there might be certain elements on your desktop environment that you may want to completely ignore or not use on your mobile or your tablet environment. Like two big things that we notice very often is modals, like little pop-ups that show up on your site, or even mouse over effects, very obviously cannot be used in a mobile or a touch environment, so we like to make sure we avoid those things and take note of them. And then one last point that's very, very important to recognize is that there are also, along with many different devices and resolutions, many different browsers that people are shopping on or browsing on these days. There's a minimum 4 or 5 if you're thinking about Firefox, Chrome, Safari, and IE that really need to be considered, and there's obviously different versions of all these. So when you're planning a responsive strategy, definitely make sure you're taking these browsers into account and make sure you test across all so that your experience is very strong. Now, very quickly, because we have some time today, I just want to sort of talk one minute about the alternatives for responsive design, which is building a separate mobile template. And what a lot of sites will do is that they want to actually drive the experience based on the device you're coming from. So if you're coming from a phone, you'll see one experience. Whereas if you're coming from a tablet or a desktop, they want to show you something completely different. There are some pros and cons to this, but the real major differences are that you're managing a completely different template to your site. So you want to make sure that you have different assets, a different user experience. It's managing really as if you have two different sites completely. And very often you'll see different URLs. So you'll have an M dot for that particular site, as well as the fact that this is really based off device. So just the size of the device won't really change anything. It's really based on how they're coming to see you. So it's a completely different strategy and an alternative because you're not really seeing a real resolution change. It's more just, hey, how am I coming to you? So it's a very, very different strategic approach. So with that, I'm going to hand it back over to Dave, who can take you through the video portion.
Thank you, Jamie. Appreciate your part of the presentation. Real great coverage of responsive design and its importance. Now let's change gears and talk a little bit about video and other forms of rich content and why those are important and can help with conversion. Now, probably the first question on everybody's mind is video effective? And so I've got some statistics to share with you from some real-world customers who have employed video on their site with some pretty dramatic results. The first one I'd like to talk to you about is Samsonite. Samsonite began introducing video in their online store about a year or so ago. And they began conducting some analytics around the behaviors of people responding to video versus other shoppers that weren't accessing video on the website. And what they found was folks accessing videos, reviewing product videos prior to purchase are 6 times more likely to buy from them. So a phenomenal improvement in terms of conversion rate, video versus non-video. We see a similar pattern with the online retailer Step 2. They sell children's toys and associated other sundries. And when they implemented video on their website, they saw a 174% increase or likelihood that someone was going to buy if they'd seen their product videos versus those shoppers who didn't view product videos. Another interesting statistics comes from the B2B online retailer bizchair.com. BizChair sells office furniture, predominantly office chairs. And when they introduced video, what they noticed was that 33% of shoppers that were, folks that were reviewing videos represented 33% of their overall revenues. That's a huge percentage, and all 3 statistics speak to the effectiveness of video. Another consideration as you're thinking through whether or not to include video on your site is what shoppers think of the video experience. And this is based on a research study that was conducted with 1,000 consumers. And what they found was that 57% of consumers surveyed were more confident about purchasing if there was a product video available. So they felt more comfortable actually making the purchase if there was a product video that they could review. Another interesting statistic from that survey was that 45% of those who viewed videos, the folks who viewed videos are 45% more likely to return and buy more from that retailer. So we not only saw an uptick in conversion, but we also saw an uptick in customer lifetime value. The other interesting statistic from the study was that of the folks watching videos, they were 41% more likely to actually share those product videos with other folks and spread word of mouth about the retailer. So along with conversion and along with customer lifetime value, we see the viral aspects of video really having a dramatic impact on shopper behavior and the top and bottom line of retailers. So before we get into it, I wanted to cover a few of the common misconceptions and obstacles that folks typically face when they're considering going down the path of introducing video and other rich media to their retailing site. Probably the most predominant one is the notion that creating videos and other forms of rich media content is just too time-consuming. Another common misconception or objection is that creating videos and other forms of rich content can be too expensive. And another challenge most often faced by retailers is how to measure the effectiveness of video. So we're going to address some of these objections and misconceptions with some practical guidelines for how to get started. We'll also talk a little bit about some technologies that can help you out in a few moments. But let's talk about how to get started first. Our recommendation is that rather than invest in platforms and and other approaches, doing it yourself in the beginning is a great way to help minimize the cost. And when you go the do-it-yourself route, it's really important to start small. So we recommend starting with 1 or 2 products in your catalog as an initial test. And as part of this test, what you want to do is you want to compare visitors certain statistics like time on page and conversion before and after the introduction of video for those particular products. And one other important consideration as you're reviewing your analytics is to remember to adjust your findings for seasonality. You don't want to be caught in the trap, for example, of your before picture being off-peak season and then your after picture being during your peak holiday shopping season. Those would skew the statistics significantly. So it's very important to make sure you're adjusting for seasonality as you're conducting your analysis. In terms of specific tips for video production as you're going down the do-it-yourself path, it's really important to keep your video content short. Statistics show that most consumers only watch product videos for 2 to 3 minutes. So a video of 2 to 3 minutes in length is totally appropriate for your test. And the other benefit of keeping your video content short is that it helps lower production costs. So you're able to conduct your test with a minimum amount of investment in time and expense. The other important tip is to ensure that you're describing the benefits of your products, not just the features. And the example I like to use here is taking a page from QVC. This is the online retailer that we all remember from the 80s, the Home Shopping Network channel. And when they first interview actors who they then hire to pitch products on their network, they typically give them an innocuous object like a pencil. And they're coached to actually work very hard at pitching the benefits of that innocuous object. So, for example, you wouldn't just say that a pencil is yellow and you can use it to write. You would pitch the benefit of the fact that the pencil's yellow. So, for example, when you're looking for a writing implement and you open the drawer, yellow is a great color because it stands out. You can find the pencil really quickly. And that's just one example of how you would begin to pitch your benefits, but a focus on benefits as well as features are critically important to help get your videos to sell. Now, once you get past that initial do-it-yourself phase and you've conducted your testing, there are a number of different approaches to taking it to the next level. There are a variety of different platforms available in the market, everything from solutions like LiveClicker and TruePadia and Invoto, which are actually software platforms that you can use to help in the video production and distribution process, to specific point solutions like Fluid Retail, for example, offers full service video production as well as capabilities to embed a shopping cart experience in the video. But as you look across the top of this table, these are what we consider to be the important characteristics that you want to measure and also align with your own specific needs. So, for example, when we talk about video production, there's a range of video production offerings available, everything from self-service solutions to platforms that automatically create this video content for you to more full-service solutions where these are vendors that actually have studios with your products and actors that can actually shoot these videos on your behalf and do that at scale. Along with the video production capabilities, you also want to ensure that your vendor can help when it comes to SEO, right? Because SEO is becoming incredibly more important, especially as search engine providers like Google are beginning to display videos at the top of their search results. So making sure that your video is properly indexed to take advantage of those changing dynamics in the search landscape is critically important. Analytics, of course, is always important, and many of these platforms have built-in capabilities to analyze the effectiveness of your video in terms of views and conversions and a number of other critical factors. Very often they also offer A/B testing capabilities. and as well as embedded shopping. And for those of you not familiar with embedded shopping, is the actual ability to incorporate a click-to-buy component within your video. So you can have a video running. There's actually a call to action within the video. Customer clicks, they're taken right to the latter stages of your shopping cart, where they can purchase that product direct from the video through your shopping cart in a pretty seamless fashion. Now, I usually like to highlight one or two providers on this list, and two that really stand out in my mind are LiveClicker and Envoto. And LiveClicker especially has a really neat iPhone application that you can use that enables you to shoot product videos right from your smartphone. So that's an example of a self-service video production feature on one of these platforms. And Envoto, I really think they have a neat embedded shopping component. Well, that rounds out our discussion on the video portion of the webinar, and we're now going to go ahead and open this up for Q&A. Again, we thank you for joining you, and we'll be reviewing questions. Jamie, are you on the line?
Yeah, I'm here. Thanks, Dave. Great take through on the video. Thanks so much. We have a few. We don't have too much time, so we'll get through as many questions as we can. And what I do want to let you guys know about is that, of course, if there's any questions we don't get to today, we can follow up with you afterwards and help answer them. So don't worry about that. So what we'll do is we'll jump right into the questions really quick. I want to remind you all that we have one more webinar as part of our e-commerce coffee break that's happening next Thursday, Friday, February 27th at the same time, 2 p.m. So please come back and join us, and we'll take you through the final step of our webinar series. So let's jump into some questions while we still have some time together. One of the first questions here is, how easy is it to do responsive design yourself, or do I need to hire someone? That's actually a terrific question. I'll take that one. That's a great question. And the answer is that there's so many different ways to apply responsive design to your site these days that you can do. Depending on the technical skills of your team, it really depends on what system and e-commerce platform you're working with. We work very closely with Magento, and Magento actually works with CSS3 and HTML5 templates, and there's a lot of great responsive themes out there. But what we would recommend is that if you are working with a strong partner who's very familiar with the tool, to utilize that partner's experience and expertise in both development and implementation of a responsive design, as well as an overall strategic guidance to how to best approach it and what statistics to look for to make sure that you're getting the most out of your mobile and responsive environment. The next questions are, can website videos be used for a services business? So Dave, I guess I'll let you answer that one.
Yeah, I'll take that one, Jamie. Thank you. The short answer to that question is yes, but with a caveat, right? Everybody's retailing business is a little bit different, and certainly service-oriented online retailers are definitely different from your traditional, say, fashion retailer, for example. The key here is to conduct a test, because even between retailers, statistics can vary quite a bit in terms of the performance of video on websites. So short answer is yes, definitely something that lends itself to the service category. But a common refrain here is test, test, test. Start off with a small test and ensure that the video works for you and your business specifically and your type of end customer.
Okay, great. Thanks, Dave. We'll take just a couple more questions here. Here's another one about responsive. How does responsive design apply to email? That's a good question because, as we mentioned earlier in our presentation, that more and more with the use of smartphones, that marketing emails and marketing campaigns are being opened on a mobile device as opposed to a desktop computer these days. So the answer very simply is that yes, you can have the email that you're sending out to your customers actually have a responsive design as well. So you can actually design your email so that it will look different based on the device where the email is being read. And that technology is there, and the coding is very similar to what you do on the website. The one thing that, from a strategic approach, that I would want to make sure that you pay attention to is the fact that the whole concept of above the fold and what content appears in the first open of the email changes drastically if you're looking at it on the mobile device or a tablet. So as you're building your marketing content, making sure it's very simple, very clear, and the message you have to cross is extremely important, especially now that we have these responsive emails that look that match and fit to the resolution of our mobile devices. So that's a great question to answer. Yes, of course, you can apply to your email, but make sure that your content and your whole strategy changes with it as well. We have time for one more question, and what I'll do is I'll kick it back over to Dave real quick. There was a question about what some of the websites are out there that are doing videos really well.
Well, I think the three retailers that I mentioned earlier in my presentation, Samsonite, Step 2, especially, they're doing a phenomenal job with video on their site, and you'll notice a consistent trend across both of their approaches. One is they tend to predominantly focus on product-related pages, and the second is that they tend to lead with specific business benefits. And one example I'll share with you, there's a video on Step 2 site of a little play kitchen for small children, and when Step 2 talks about the benefits of that toy for that child, they've actually expanded on that and have begun to position that product and its benefits to parents. So they'll talk about the faux granite marble top of this play kitchen and a number of the other fine refinements that you would, ordinarily you'd hear this language when someone was talking about a real kitchen in a real house, but they use the same language because they recognize that they're pitching benefits not only to the children but to the parents as well, and are positioning it as not only as a toy that the children will enjoy, but a toy that will extend the image that they're trying to create within their own household. Which is a phenomenally interesting video to watch and see them position this toy in that way, but also phenomenally successful for them. And again, it all leads with benefits. So I hope that answered the question.
Awesome, Dave. Thanks so much. With that, we got to wrap things up because we've hit our mark. So once again, I want to thank everybody for joining us today. We really hope that you found the webinar useful, and that some of these questions that we got to answer also gave you some more insight. Last note is, again, please join us for our last and final webinar next week, Thursday, February 27th at 2 p.m. We look forward to seeing you all again. Thanks again for attending, and have a great day.